I have PTSD, which manifests as dissociation and ADHD. I also have a multitude of autoimmune responses and disorders as a result of, autonomic nervous system trauma, ultimately. A result of trauma, both circumstantial, acute, and medical trauma. The trauma that I incurred while seeking treatment for my original PTSD trauma. So the trauma in combination with the pharmaceutical medications that I was put on were really the catalyst for a lot, like I said, of autoimmune conditions, including diabetes. I've been diagnosed with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. But ultimately, my system ran amok. And what I've learned is that our medical system just is not equipped to treat or understand, or doesn't have the willingness to understand more complicated cases like myself. So working backwards, again, my dissociation really manifested from childhood. I didn't realize that my childhood trauma was manifesting as dissociation, but as I got older, I, to be completely honest, was seeking substance abuse for escaping the trauma that I was experiencing. And originally, as a child, the first time that I was brought to our healthcare system to therapy, it was the first time that I kind of thought to myself, I'm not seeing the Hippocratic oath here. This is really more of a hypocritical system that I'm seeing. First of all, I was, even at 13, I was aware that I was not the root cause of the problems. I was being brought as the problem child, but I understood that there was the system dynamics that were really the issue here. But what was fascinating, my therapist at the time, he was so willing to immediately prescribe me really heavy medications, everything from, addictive benzodiazepines to sedatives, antipsychotics, and, I'm a child. So I realized that this was all just kind of a facade very early on, and that was kind of the seed planted of me having some distrust for our medical system. And, I would have no choice but to continue to show up, but I would flush the medications down the toilet or hide them in other ways. Again, this was my childhood intuition that just knew that this was completely unnecessary. I am not the issue, and these meds aren't going to do anything. What was interesting was as I would continue to show up, my doctor he was so disconnected and so uninterested in understanding, what was the root cause and me as a patient in general, that he would say, wow, I can really see how the medications are helping you so much. You're getting so much better. And so here I am at 13, okay, check. Right. And come to find out later that this particular doctor actually was written up in the Bay Area where I'm from for being, far and beyond above any other doctor in the area for receiving kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
So again, my story is not about bashing the medical system, because there are absolutely appropriate applications, but this was my early experience of, again, registering how incentivized doctors are by, the pharmaceutical companies ultimately, and how disinterested they seemed in understanding what was really going to work for me as a patient, because I genuinely sought to be happier, to find wellness. That's never changed. So fast forwarding, like I said, I sought substance abuse to self-medicate because the system wasn't providing me effective treatment options. And this is really where, again, I hope to, perhaps serve as a cautionary tale, because this is kind of where things went downhill for me. That original childhood intuition and that understanding that I had of listening to what I knew was true, I was willing now to be diagnosed with whatever the doctor said, because I was seeking medications, I was seeking pharmaceuticals, and I'll just be completely honest about that, because that was my incentive. Again, I certainly tried to be honest with my doctors. I was always seeking, ways to improve my life, but at the same time, I wasn't thinking too far into the future, and I was absolutely much more preoccupied with self-medicating. And so obviously a repercussion of self-medicating, you're not totally conscious. You're not in a great state of mind to be making decisions. So now I'm 17, 18 years old, and even with my previous experiences in therapy, I wasn't considering a lot beyond the immediate present moment, but I never really stopped to consider what the real repercussions could be of an improper diagnosis. I think that I was naive to believe that, that wouldn't really impact me beyond what I was prescribed. And I have come to find out that that is absolutely not true. So my personal experience is that I was misdiagnosed with mental illness. I take a moment to pause here because, I've also spent multiple months in treatment centers with people who would say like they are properly diagnosed, and whatever your truth is, this is my experience. And I think that it's really important to just identify, because again, I had no idea the repercussions that would result in willingly allowing, somebody else to define me. And I think that that's really one of the dangers of our current medical system, is that we are giving so much power to these practitioners, to the doctors, and, they really don't have the time or the resources to dive deep with you. And so once you are defined as something, it is very difficult to kind of get yourself out of that hole. And that is the story that we are talking about today.